These are the babies I weaned a week ago. As you can see, they look terrific, no stress. I vaccinated them for PMV and Rota and pox at weaning. All the Lager champion mix they can eat every day in the feeder. They're doing great. And then I'm going to answer some viewer questions. I have a bunch of viewer questions that are quite interesting that I'm going to answer in the video following this. These babies, as you can see, there was no medication to the breeders, no medication to the babies. I kept new biotic, oregano, and cinnamon concentration in the water the whole time, the last week. And I'll put a link to that below if you're interested in order it. It really helps keep the babies healthy and happy. And they should be running a little pox fever today. One thing I didn't mention in the last video is I keep them in until I ship them to the one-loft race. I don't let them go and see outside. Not sure if it makes much of a difference, but I do keep them in. They're not outside looking around. And I'll ship them in about 10 days to the one-loft race, which will be over 2.5 weeks after their vaccinations. And I hope you enjoy the questions and answers that I'll be giving in the next segment. Some questions. One question I get all the time is, should I measure the feed for my race team? My suggestion would be feed the race team until they leave a small handful of barley. Now, I measure the feed because I don't train them very much. I don't loft fly the birds, but if you're planning on loft flying the birds, and you're not exactly sure on how much to feed them once a day and feed them until they leave a little bit of barley. If you loft fly them the next day, they'll fly like crazy. Again, you can't make a mistake doing this. And I'm very strict. I did a video on how strict I feed, but I can look at a pigeon's crop, tell if it's had enough. I can touch their body, see where I'm at with the feeding. So for you, feed until they leave a little barley is the best bet for the race team. Let's see, peas or no peas in the mix, which is fed to the racers. Well, this year I'll be mixing barley with champion mix, which has some peas in it. I like a mix I use for the hens and the cocks to be a varied mix. It's predominantly barley, so I like the champion mix because it has a lot of different types of seeds in it. And it does have peas. Don't get hung up on peas. The last 7 or 10 years, there's been some articles about peas are not needed in racing pigeons. We've fed peas forever. I'm not a huge fan of peas for the race team, but again, I don't worry about a handful of peas in the mix. I mean, the champion mix has peas, and so my race team has peas. Yellow drops. Now, I know I'm an advocate of yellow drops. Should you use them? I feel if you're going to natural health and your birds haven't been on natural health for many years, yes, use the yellow drops. I would recommend doing it middle of the week, each week during the race season. Not off season, not the breeders, just the race team. The yellow drops, it's an antimicrobial. I use the Herbots brand. It's all about the same. I would use them. This past old bird season, my birds flew terrific, and I didn't supplement with anything. I didn't mix anything on the feed. I didn't do the yellow drops one time during the season. All I used after the race was 2 days of apple cider vinegar, Sunday and Monday, at 1.5 ounces to the gallon. I gave them red cell during the week. I gave them the oregano product. I'll put a link to the oregano product I used below. And when they returned home, they had a mix in the water also of the oregano product and like light honey, a little bit of vitamins and electrolytes, and a probiotic. But I'm really not a huge, I'm not too regular with the probiotics, I should say. I think my birds have a pretty good gut microbiome because they've been antibiotic free for over 11 years. So I'm not too crazy about giving probiotics all the time. I think if you're moving to natural health and you've been an antibiotic user for many years, I think the probiotics are probably more beneficial for you than they would be for my pigeons, because my birds get a lot of their probiotics from the droppings, from exposure to the other birds, from the healthy gut of the other birds. Let's see. What if barley is not available? I know in many parts of the world, they're having problems finding barley. Paddy rice, it's a good substitute. I know in Belgium, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, some of the Belgians started using paddy rice in their mix, and it's very similar to the barley. It must be in the hull. It looks like a big grass seed, plump grass seed. Use patty rice if you can get it in place of the barley. Can I raise a round of babies from my celibate hens before the race season? Absolutely. You can raise a round of babies. I think, I've never done it, I think it would do the hens good to raise around the babies and then go into the celibate hen system. Part of the reason I don't mate my birds before the racing season is because I don't want them molting their wing flights until maybe very late in the season. So my birds might be on their first or second wing flight for the long distance races. If you mate them, they might be a little farther out in the molt, but again, it's not going to be an issue. Even if they're on their third or fourth flight, they can still fly long distance. So you can mate the hens if you want to raise a round of babies before the season, do it. I don't think it will hurt one bit. Should I train on the line of flight? Now, when you're starting pigeons, you should go all directions and then predominantly on the line of flight. But if you work, say, 30 miles in the opposite direction, it doesn't matter. Take the pigeons to work. You do not have to train on the line of flight. The people with some of the most success tend to train their pigeons any direction. So some of the best success I had when I was, it was the mid 80s, I was going to grad school and I was going pretty much dead south to grad school, about 20 miles, and I was taking my pigeons dead south. And they were flying like crazy. So don't get hung up on the direction. Just, hey, if you need to get them some work, take them wherever. And they should have confidence to home from any direction. So feel free to take them where you're going and build their confidence to come out, think, and go. It's very important, and they learn that when you take them different directions. How many 30 minutes or mile flight should I do in a week? Now, with my pigeons, they race on Saturday, and then I give them a 35-mile training flight on Tuesday and about a 45 to 50-mile flight on Thursday. So I like them to fly an hour on Thursday. They race on Saturday. So that's it for me, and that's what I do. But I'm very strict with the feeding. Now, if you can't train like me, you could let them out to fly, say Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And even if they flew an hour each day, that would be good. They don't get the same workout in a loft fly as they do with a training toss. It's better work. If they fly 35 minutes of a training toss, it's a better pump. It's a more steady pace. It's a harder drive. So a 35-minute training toss is probably equal to nearly an hour around the loft. So if you feed until they leave a little barley, they will loft fly, and you can get away with just loft flying the birds the middle of the week, several days a week. And only let them out once a day. Too many people push their birds out twice a day, lock them out twice a day. They don't need it. If you're feeding them correctly, one flight a day is plenty. And if you think about it, my birds only have 2 flights per week in between races. Should my celibate hens be kept in a darkened loft? No, I don't darken the old birds. The loft is normal light. What I do recommend is to lock them out into an aviary on wire so they're less likely to mate. Now, a lot of times they can see the yard, they can see other pigeons. You can put some screening around them. I'm going to put some corrugated roofing around my little flight pen this year because I'm going to start exercising my widow cocks more. I'm going to give them some open hole to see if it helps bring on form. But I'm going to have these hens locked out in this little, flight pen in the front of my hen loft. But light will pass through, but they won't be able to see through. And the bottom will be just wire. So lock them out during the day. I don't start this until the racing season starts. Like my hens are doing what they want right now. We start racing in about 6 weeks or 5 weeks or so. So they're not being locked out during the day. They're just unmated hens in perches. And I'll start training in a couple weeks and have them ready for the first race. Do celibate hens need to see a cock when returning from a race? Absolutely not. My best hens, my very best hens over the years have just come home and gone right in the hen loft to their perch or just to the hen loft. Other hens have figured it out and gone into the widowhood cock loft, but always the stars, the champion racers, usually just go right into the hen loft. So no motivation, no cocks on return. At the end of the season, I do mate them up. I'll let them at least sit a round of eggs. This year, I let them raise babies because they flew so well. But motivation is a myth. Pigeons don't get motivated. Pigeons fly for the love of the home. They fly for condition. They just race. And I've said before, you might try to motivate your pigeons. You'll help one, you'll hurt 20. So don't bother. Don't waste your time motivating birds. It's more work, it's more effort. And I've had pigeon after pigeon, champion after champion win without being motivated in the least bit. Let's see. How important is hygiene in the loft? Well, for me, I don't have a lot of time. So I clean my racing lofts on the Saturday before the race. So weekly, the lofts are clean. I clean them out. They look nice when the birds come home. Sometimes they kick some grain around, which I'll always, get up off the floor after the race. But once a week, don't kill yourself. If it's dry, I know we watch the videos and people's lofts look like a hospital and they're sanitary and beautiful. And I'm not sure if it's best for the pigeons. I mean, a gray loft, unpainted loft with some droppings, the birds are probably more comfortable. They're pigeons. And I only clean once a week. So don't get crazy with the sanitation. Also, you may want to just make sure there's ventilation. So I put a fan in my widow cock loft that blows out. The hen loft just seems fine. I mean, the ventilation seems okay. I just haven't had an issue. But yeah, once a week is just fine. Uh, my feed is a little dusty. Should I feed dusty feed? I mean, I don't think it really matters that much if the feed's a little dusty. It's one thing if it's bad feed, but if it smells good, I'll even chew up the feed myself sometimes and taste it and see how it seems. But don't get caught up if your feed's a little dusty. It's not that big of a deal. Most of the feeds from all the grain companies, it should be a good, clean feed. I mean, they usually put it through a process where they kind of blow the dust out of it or whatever they do, but usually the grain is not so dusty. And the feed I buy, I use mainly Vercel because I have it delivered, is never dusty. Should I offer the pigeons a bath? In what days? Now, during the race season, if I'm going to give a bath, I give a bath the day of shipping. I'll put the bath pans in the morning with warm water. It has to be warm water, not cold water. Nice warm water. Put the bath pans in the day of shipping. Let them take their baths, and you'll find they'll take their bath, they'll lay around, they'll conserve energy, and I think it brings on form. Now, if rain is predicted, I do not bathe them the day before the race. Does it really matter? Not sure, but I'm thinking I want to keep as much bloom on the feather as possible, so I do not give baths if rain is predicted. If it's not predicted, the day of shipping, best day of the week to give your birds a bath. They go to the race, they're clean, they're calm, their feet are shining, and I like to give baths the day of shipping. And then there was another question on motivation, and we did touch upon that. Don't waste your time. Don't separate sexes. Don't tease them. Same with young birds. Leave them all together in one loft. If they motivate themselves, if there's something going on in the loft, that's one thing. But artificial motivation where you're trying to tease them or add something to the loft or pulling a bird or adding a cock, that stuff's a waste of time. I've seen pigeons where all of a sudden, they race their whole season, they don't have a nest box, then you lose a pigeon, and now it has a nest box. Now that's more of a natural motivation for the bird. Now it has some territory and it might be motivated, but for the most part, don't waste your time with motivation. Uh, Recently, I had a question that how would my celibate hens fly if I raced them in Belgium for the Barcelona? Because everybody in the Barcelona, not everybody, but most everyone that races hens ships them on small babies to the Barcelona. So if everybody ships them on small babies, more likely than not, the winner is going to be on small babies. I think that these Europeans would be better off just shipping them to the perch. Don't have them pumping babies. Don't have any kind of anxiety or stress on the truck. When they ship to Barcelona, they're on the truck for like 5 days. They're before liberation. So I just think the reason hens are winning with small babies is because that's what their fathers did. That's what their grandfathers did. If I was racing in Belgium, I would race the hen Celibate just to the perch for the Barcelona, and I do that in New England, and these hens fly amazing. Even at the longest races, the toughest races, these hens fly amazing. And then another question I had was for One-loft racing, someone's babies didn't quite look right. They had a few sick ones. They treated them. Unless they're perfect, don't enter them in a One-loft race. I mean, put them on your own race team. You might want to mess with them, but very rarely does a pigeon that is that was sick amount to anything. So don't waste your time. Don't invest in those birds. You're better off throw them on your race team and see what happens. But don't spend a fortune entering them in one-loft races if they weren't extremely healthy their whole lives. And you only have them, say, 8 weeks, maybe. They have to go through the whole raising with the parents. You want to make sure they don't miss any feedings. They have plenty of grits and minerals. You wean them, you vaccinate them. I use PMV and rotavirus with the pox vaccine, which I also think helps stimulate them. I vaccinated my babies a week ago, and they all have little tiny BB type takes for the pox vaccine on their leg. I just pull the skin out, I slide a droplet through, and then I'll just wait maybe a few weeks with the oregano product in the water, all the minerals they want. And if anything doesn't look perfect, there's no chance it's going to go to the One-loft race. They shouldn't break down. They shouldn't go off. I load it up with all the best feeds, all the minerals, grits, have what they want, no stress. And at about 7 weeks old, say, I'll ship them to the One-loft race. I hope you liked the question and answer video. Please like and subscribe, share to your friends, and I'll put some links to the things I touched upon in the description below. This is Frank McLaughlin, McLaughlin Lofts. Thank you.